Thank you, councillors, members of the clergy, the press, ladies and gentlemen, one and all, and our staff, of course. Welcome to the December meeting, the final meeting for 2019 of Temora Shire Council. I do declare the meeting open, and I advise that this is the first occasion that we're using our audio system, so therefore, as of this meeting and under state regulation, that our meetings have to be recorded, and recorded, or they could be webcast. We've chosen to do the audio, and we felt that that would be the most appropriate ways to comply with that particular legislation. So, in declaring the meeting open, I do advise that this meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded in the coming days to our website. For those that would like to listen to the exciting decisions and discussions that are made to help shape Temora Shire. Now, I would now invite Auxiliary Lieutenant Caleb Smith to deliver our very special Christmas prayer. Thank you very much. Press the button, please.
There we go. We thank you for the privilege of living in a country where when government meetings are on, the doors are open and the microphones are on. Help us never to forget what a blessing that is, and how many people would live in countries where that's not the case. We thank you for the people gathered here, for the skills that you've given them. We pray that you bless them as they make decisions that will shape this entire Shire. As the drought continues to bite, we pray as always for rain, we pray for resilience, but we thank you too for living in a town with an incredibly bustling main street where finding a park is often fairly tricky. And we thank you too for, at least from the Salvo side of things, just the highest rate of donations I've seen in the 7 years of doing this job. It's absolutely unbelievable. So thank you for the generosity of your people. Finally, as 2019 comes to a close, we offer up a special prayer for any Year 12 students who are contemplating the years ahead, where things might take them. And as our state continues to deal with bushfires, we pray, as always, for protection for our fireys, particularly those from Temora who are heading out to help their colleagues elsewhere in the state. For today, for this month, for this year, we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very, very much. We're very grateful for those words, and Council also warmly congratulates you and the members of the Temora Corps for the manner in which you hosted our Carols by Candlelight in Gloucester Park on Saturday night last. Your message was certainly unique, but it certainly was very heart-rendering and had us all certainly engrossed. So thank you again so much, and to the rest of the Christian leaders, thank you for your support of Temora Shire Council in terms of delivering our opening prayer, but also for the work that you do in our community in your quiet, loving and dignified way. So thank you very much.
Thank you too for the council for the various things you did to make Carols in the Park happen, involving stadiums and so on. So thanks very much for that. I've got some more work to do.
You're excused. Thank you. Councillors, I would like to also note that you will know that Mrs. Lynn Ward, who is obviously an esteemed journalist here at the Temora Independent, who has certainly won the respect and affection of many. So Mrs. Ward has decided to actually leave the journalist role and go back home to the lake and take up a new role. So to you, Mrs. Ward, on behalf of Temora Shire Council and our wider community, thank you so much for your contributions to this community. You've handled yourself so well, and we can tell that you love the role that you have. You are truly interested in people, and we warmly thank you so much and wish you all the very best in your new chapter. Thank you. In farewelling Mrs Ward. We also welcome her replacement, Mr Alan Wilson. Council bid you a warm welcome, Mr Wilson, and we look forward to getting to know you better, and I'm sure that you'll contribute a great deal to this community, and it'll touch your heart as much as it does ours. So again, we bid you a warm welcome. To Mrs Liz Grant, we also acknowledge your presence. Obviously, you'll be looking after Council's reports from our meetings for this meeting, and then we understand there'll be discussions further in the new year for that to be ongoing. But again, thank you for your hard work that you put into your role and in your various roles throughout the community. They're most appreciated, so thank you. Councillors, we have any apologies, please? No. Bimal Shah, the Works Manager. The only apology, is someone prepared to move the adoption, of that apology. Councillor Oliver, Councillor Smith moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried. Thank you, Mother. Councillors, is there any declaration of any interest at this time? Councillor Judd. Oh, we'll got to get in the habit, councillors. I know it's challenging to press the buttons and talk into the microphones. Councillor Judd.
There is an application from the Temora Rotary Club in correspondence report, so clear an interest in that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Judd. Turn it off, see? Very good. Further declarations? No, thank you very much. We do have a presentation, councillors. I'd like to ask, or first of all, I'd like to ask Mrs Ward and Councillor Smith to come up to the front of the chamber, please. So to you, Mrs Ward, again, we said sincere remarks earlier, but we just wish to present you with a small token of our appreciation of what you have done to further enhance Shire spirit. So again, thank you so very, very much. You're welcome. And Councillor Smith, I'd call you forward, please. Councillor Smith, who also, as you'd all be aware, is the president of the Temora Can Assist branch, and does a great job as the leader, but also has an outstanding team behind him. Councillor Smith, on behalf of councillors and senior staff, I'm very pleased to present you with this box. Now, inside this box, however, there is $325, and that was actually raised through the generosity of your colleagues on council at our recent councillors' Christmas dinner. So we've again chosen to give this to Can Assist for the outstanding work that you and your team do to support our community. It is never taken for granted, and we're very, very grateful. So on behalf of council, this is for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say what a generous community we have in Temora. I don't think there's a community anywhere around that has the generosity that Temora's got. It just, every day, we don't get money every day, but it's every day you see there's generosity for some organisation or something that happens, and people just open their hearts and their wallets. And this $325 will take $25 run to Wagga for someone that's got cancer for their fuel, and it's quite a number of trips, 13 trips there, and it all helps. And those people that are really, really need it, and it makes their life a little bit easier. I won't keep going on because we're in council time. Thank you all for the councillors and the staff that help put this money in the tin, because it will be used wisely. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor Smith. Councillors, the previous minutes for our November meeting of Temora Shire Council were circulated to you, and I now require a motion for those minutes to be confirmed, please. The Deputy Mayor has moved that way. Seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Oliver moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Any matters arising from the previous minutes, Mr General Manager?
No matters arising, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillors, we now proceed to the mayoral minute, which is in your late report loose leaf file. Council will note, as of the 16th of December, webcasting or audio recording of council meetings across New South Wales were made mandatory. This evening will be the first occasion for council to utilise our audio recording system. Each meeting's recordings will be uploaded to our website for those who wish to listen. I would ask all of us to be patient with this new system and assume that all is said will be recorded. I know this will take some getting used to, however, we will do all our very, very best. Council are pleased to have allocated round one of the federal government's drought community support funding extension program of $1 million. A feature of this allocation has been Council's drought workforce initiative, the Farm Tradie program. It is important to note that this should not be seen as charity being extended to our farming and business community, but rather an opportunity to be paid doing work to enhance Temora Shire. Funds will be allocated to a wide range of Temora Shire and community projects, with funds remaining in this shire. Council will hold our workshop for round two of the $1 million drought fund tomorrow, with all of us committed to spending every single dollar appropriately and wisely, whilst keeping within the guidelines of the grant program. Council instituted back in 2012 the Mayoral Citation Award, and this was under then Mayor Mr Peter Spears OAM. There have only been 4 recipients of this award, including the late Father Philip Harding, Mr Scott Reardon OAM, Mrs Ruth Fritsch, and the Temora RSL sub-branch. In terms of a permanent reminder of those who have received this honour, we have not considered this issue to date. It should be noted, Council do have honour boards for Australian Honours, Freedom of the Shire Award and Citizen of the Year Award, which is most essential and appropriate. In conjunction with Councillor Reinhold, who has brought this matter to my attention, I have obtained a price to have an honour board created, and the quote is attached to this paper. The honour board could be located at the Temora Memorial Town Hall in a suitable position. Then there would be a public and ongoing reminder of those who have been presented with this rare and important honour. And councillors, there's a recommendation that I have there for you to consider, that Council purchase an honour board to have a permanent and public reminder of recipients of the Mayoral Citation Award, and further that the honour board be located in a suitable position in the Memorial Town Hall, and the quotation is there for you. At this time of the year, when we reflect on the previous 12 months, it's appropriate for me as Mayor to acknowledge the efforts of councillors and staff. This has been a very busy year, but one that we can be proud of. There have been many accomplishments which we can all be proud of. The workload of a councillor has increased considerably over the years. However, all of us have given council and the community our very best, and for that I'm most thankful to you all. I'm particularly grateful to all of our staff, to the General Manager, the Directors, the Managers, our indoor and outdoor staff. All of them carry out their role with pride, knowing they are serving the community in very important ways. The outstanding effort that our staff put into implementing the decisions of Council is warmly appreciated by us as councillors and by our Temora Shire community. I do have gifts, councillors, that my mother brought in before that I'll distribute in due course. I was getting a bit worried about those. I wish to place on record Council's warm congratulations to those Temora Shire students who have been elected as leaders of their schools. Whether they've been appointed as a captain, a vice captain, a permanent student councillor or a student councillor, Council wishes them a most enjoyable term in office. It's a significant honour when your peers elect you to represent their needs. And I know all our school student leaders from Area Park Central, Temora High, Temora Public, Temora West and St Anne Central schools will carry out their roles with enthusiasm, consideration, warmth and dignity. We all realise the dry times we're experiencing in recent years do have a negative impact on the Shire in many and varied ways. One thing is for certain though, by shopping in the local businesses wherever we possibly can, by maintaining our faith and hope and by supporting and caring for each other, we will get through these trying times. The prosperous times will come again and it won't be too far away. We don't have to look too far north for us to appreciate there are many others worse off than ourselves. But in conclusion, I wish to extend my very warm wishes to councillors, to our staff and to the community for a very Merry Christmas. The new year is certainly going to be a busy one with further Stronger Country Community Grant projects to be completed together with the Drought Support Extension Program. It is an exciting time for Temora Shire and I'd like the entire community to be part of it. Let us ensure that the year 2020 is a healthy, productive and prosperous one for us all. And the recommendation, councillors, is that the reports noted and the recommendation as presented be adopted. In your hands. Councillor Oliver. Councillor Smith.
Move that way.
Thank you. So you'll move the adoption of the mayoral minute and recommendation. Seconded, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. And I thank you very much, councillors, indeed. Councillors, let's now proceed to our business paper. And we commence on page 11, which is the Emergency Management Committee meeting. And those minutes are there for you. Is someone prepared to move that that report be received? Thank you. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Winkie, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, any items out of that report that you wish to comment on or highlight? If not, is someone prepared to move the adoption of the Emergency Management Committee report and its recommendations, please? Thank you. Councillor Oliver has moved that way. Is there a second for the motion? Councillor Reinhold. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Councillor McLaren.
Just to comment on page 15 to note the RMS branding is now obsolete as at the 1st of December and they'll be rebranded to capital T, little f, capital NSW. So the RMS will all be now rebranded for who knows how much money. Thank you.
That's a very good point, Councillor McLaren. I have to say, I still think people are going to refer to it as the RMS. I don't know quite the logic, if there was any, to be frank, behind that move, but it's certainly worth reminding us that is happening. And also, of course, the new inspector for Temora Shire has been appointed. I am not aware of who that is, but I'm sure we'll find out in due course. So if there's no further discussion on the motion in relation to the Emergency Management Committee meeting report, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Excuse me. Page 21, councillors, the Youth Advisory Committee report, and Councillor Slay is the chairman.
I move, Mr Chairman, that the report be received.
Thank you. Councillor Slay has moved that the Youth Advisory Committee report be received. Seconded, Councillor Smith. Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Slay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As always, this particular report is an extremely exciting one, and I think that those of us who are privileged to attend the meeting with the Youth Council are in a very, very privileged position, because every month we hear of something new happening, something dramatic, but something that's, in a sense, life-changing for the individuals, and I think that this is probably best characterised. There was mention there of a parting Year 12 member on page 6 of the report, sorry, it won't be on page 6. On page 22 of your report, and I think that he represents an example of the sort of changes that are brought about by belonging to and becoming very involved in our youth team. But to the two leaders who run the program and to all of those young people who support these leaders, I offer my congratulations, and to all the councillors who have made this possible, I thank you for your generous maintenance of this as an item in our budget. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Slay, and you worded that very, very well, and certainly credit does go to our team, that's for sure. Councillors, any items in the Youth Advisory Committee report you wish to comment on? If not, is someone prepared to move the report and the recommendations contained therein, please? Councillor Slay, Councillor Winkie moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Page 30, we have the Assets and Operations Committee report, and the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair's the chairman.
Move the report be received.
Thank you. Move the report received. Seconded, Councillor Smith. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried unanimously. Thank you. The Deputy Mayor.
Mr Mayor, I think it's all pretty straightforward. Anything to add to the reports?
Thank you. Other councillors have any comments or questions in relation to the Assets and Operations Committee report? Councillor Judd.
Just a clarification, a couple of motions were passed. The one on page 33, the request for water, Area Park. Really, I would have liked to see the reason for it, that we do have a present contract for the water at Area Park, so that's the reason why the request was denied.
So you'd like to see that just added?
Yes, please.
Councillor Judd. So, well, I'm happy to actually take it as a separate motion. So, Councillor Judd, in relation to 3.2, request for water, you're moving that that Council deny the request due to existing contractual arrangements.
Yes, I'll move that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Slay. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. The Director of Environmental Services.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll just refer you to page 35 and item 3.3, the Lions Club request for a concrete apron at the recycling facility. The resolution was that it be considered in round 2 of the drought funding. I just want to advise council that that would be eligible to be funded from the waste fund, which has sufficient funds to cover that expenditure if council so wished to go that way. So that's for your information.
Thank you, Mr Director. Councillors, you've heard from the Director in that with the update in that space, and I understand from the Director of Finance Administration that there are substantial funds currently in the waste management. Councillor McLaren.
Would you like this motion to be amended or a new motion?
I think a new motion. Councillor McLaren.
I'd like to move that the funding for this Lions Club project in Melaleuca Street be funded from the reserves of the Waste Management Fund.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Slay. Moved and seconded, discussion. No further discussion. That's obviously just in relation to page 35, 3.3, the Temora Lions Club Melaleuca Street Depot report. There's no further discussion. Councillor Oliver.
I have a different question. I just have a different question for the technical.
Oh, in relation to the...
Not in relation to this, no.
Oh, okay, righto. So hold that thought, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. So put the motion to you in relation to 3.3. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Further items of the report, Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question to the tech officer. With the increased temperatures and the new trees that were planted with the beautification, over the next 2 or 3 days we're expecting 40 plus degrees. Are we watering more frequently now, or is it still the same schedule?
The engineering technical manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, so watering commenced at once per week, and it's now increased to twice per week, and will be monitored by the urban overseer. And if further watering is required, it'll be undertaken. So it's well in hand.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. You happy with that, Councillor Oliver?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I think they're coming along very well. Those trees. They're coming along. They're coming along very, very nicely. Councillors, the remainder of the Assets and Operations Committee report and its recommendations, is someone prepared to move? Thank you, Councillor Winky has moved that way. Seconded the Deputy Mayor. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, please.
Councillor Judd.
Page 38, the motion that was moved about the Erie Park Railway crossings. At the bottom, page 38, really that should only refer to the Davidson Street rail crossing. It's the one that needs work done on it. Kilmer Street is quite wide enough, so just needs clarification.
Okay. So the mover and seconder of that report, are you happy to add that clarification, please? Councillor Winky and the Deputy Mayor on page 38 at the bottom. Yep. Mover's happy. Deputy Mayor's happy. Okay. Moved and seconded. We have that amendment, or that minor clarification, I should say. I will, if there's no further discussion, Councillor McLaren.
Can you just clarify that? Resolution 133 became an amendment and it was put back at Resolution 134, is that right? And then it was passed?
So the committee resolution 133/209.
Oh, so there's two separate motions, sorry, my apologies.
So that's fine. So if there's no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Councillors, we now proceed over to page 52, the Aerodrome Users Committee report. And Councillor Judd is the chairman.
Thanks, Mr Chairman. I'll move the motion that the report be received.
Thank you. Councillor Judd has moved the report received. Thank you, Councillor Winky. Moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Judd.
Probably the most important item there was item 3.2 on 55, where the committee hasn't really met for nearly 6 months since council did a security review at the aerodrome, and our technical manager's given a report there. Anyway, the crunch of it is, to come out of that we're forming a small committee to work with the manager to work through those items and work out a priority list of upgrading our security at the aerodrome. So that's probably the most important thing that's come out of it.
So you endorse, Councillor Judd, strongly for Council's consideration that recommendation on page 55 in relation to the establishment of a risk management committee?
Yes.
Thank you
It's
very
mentioned
much.
further on too. Yeah, so.
Thank you. I see, Councillor Judd, you have been nominated by that committee to again act as the chairman of that committee, and I'd say one of the longest serving chairman of the Aerodrome Users Committee.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. Probably been chairman nearly since the inception, but it's one of my interests, and yes. So I'm glad to be, hopefully we can keep doing improvements out there. So.
Thanks, Councillor Judd. Councillors, there is the Aerodrome Users Committee report and recommendations there for your consideration. Councillor Winkie?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Move that way that be adopted.
Thank you. Councillor Winkie moved the adoption of the report and its recommendations. Councillor Reinhold, you have seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Judd?
I just want to mentions about loading shotgun shells to try and keep the birds away. I think Murray Keir and Peter Harper reported on one of their aircraft hit a bird out there, and it was only 30 centimetres from going through the motor. And it went from, there was only a few $1,000s damage, as it was, but it went through the motor, it was $100,000 damage. So that's how lucky they were.
Yeah, that's, wow. Thanks, Councillor Judd. If there's no further discussion, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried. Thank you very much. Councillors, there's no further committee reports. So we now proceed to page 61. Delegates' reports, please. Do we have any delegates' reports? Councillor Smith.
Yes, there's been quite a lot of activity over the last month. The 11th, Councillor Oliver and myself did the Remembrance Day. That was the 11th. The 15th was afternoon tea with the Centurions. The 16th, we had an official opening for Craig Giles, which I represented yourself at. The 20th, we did the Dusty Boots team from Oran Park. The 28th, we did the new residents welcome. 4th of December was a meeting with Selena. 7th was Temura's own meeting. The 12th, we had a meeting with Caleb Smith, and a cheque was presented to Caleb for $1,000 from Poly Flooring from Melbourne. And that was the 12th. The 12th again was a meeting with the show committee, and we had a mayoral reception there. So we had a sort of reasonably busy month. Thank you.
Right. Very busy month. Thank you, Councillor Smith, for representing us at those various events. We're greatly appreciative. Further delegates' reports, please. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to back up Councillor Smith's report about the new residents' dinner, it was quite emotional, I suppose you might say, to hear, I think her name is Azim, the Ali and Azim from Iran, the Iranian refugees. She started off saying how lovely it is to be in a country where the government don't want to kill you. And I thought that was really, really significant, I suppose, yeah. So, but it was a good night, and the new residents we have in our community are well and truly fitting in. So, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. You're quite right. You are quite right. That was it was a touching occasion, and we must take our hats off to our Culture and Community Services Officer, Ms Amanda Gay. Outstanding work on her part to make arrangements. So thanks, Councillor Oliver. We now proceed to Councillor Reinhold.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was just going to say about the Teabeg Christmas fair on Friday night.
Yes.
I don't know what the head count was, but there was thousands. The place was just jumping. It was just really fantastic. And reports from everyone, they had a great night. So, yeah, well done, Teabeg.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Reinhold. You're spot on there that all involved need to be warmly congratulated. It's those sorts of things that are some of the best medicine of all for to help us deal with some of the challenging times that are before us. So thanks so much for your contributions as well in that space. We now go to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. We've had a couple of Australia Day committee meetings. We've just been allocated our ambassador. And as a husband and wife team, I just can't think of the names at the moment. But yeah, anyway, yeah. Also, there's been several school presentations over the last week or so. Public school, the Area Park Central School, Temora West, and also, I've attended those as representatives of Golden Fields, but it's a council position, and also the TAFE College presentation night too. So, yeah, and I also represented council at a Probus Club dinner lunch on Tuesday, which went off very well. There's one of the clubs, exception I think to the town, that's got well over 100 members and growing all the time. So they're very well supported actually. That's about it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I now go to Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to report on Access and Equity had their AGM on Tuesday evening this week. We had voted in a new chairperson, Deb Patterson, vice chairperson Dale Winky, and myself as secretary, and we'll next meet again in February. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and congratulations, Councillor McLaren, on your appointment. And Councillor Winky as the Deputy Chairman, and to Ms Patterson on her appointment as the Chairman of a very active and important committee. So thank you very much. Further delegates' reports, Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Chairman. I just went back through the emails. It's Ralph and Kathy Kelly are the Australia Day ambassadors, so
Excellent.
sound like they're pretty handy by the sound of it. So thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Further delegates' reports. Councillors, I just have a couple of things. Like the Deputy Mayor, had the real pleasure to represent Council at all 5 of our great schools' presentation ceremonies, and honestly and truly, for those that have been, they are great medicine, and just seeing the achievements of our youngsters, it's well, frankly, it's not only heartwarming, it's very inspiring, and I have to say though that yesterday at the St Anne's Central School we will be seeing, as I think you're aware, Mrs Kathy Holding, the principal, gave her final speech as principal at St Anne's. Excuse me, and obviously Temora Shire has touched her heart, because I saw her visibly moved, Mrs Holding, make very warm and special reflections on what a great shire that we have, and that includes the council and the community, and she specifically mentioned that, and of course I wanted to pass that on to you, and it was great, and to receive a rapturous round of applause afterwards from the families that were present, I think just further amplified I think what Mrs Holding was trying to say, and it was just a special moment that I think we need to be aware of. So that was that. Councillors, the REROC, it was just the General Manager and I at the Riverina Eastern Regional Organisation of Councils. Of course, REROC, our Technical Engineering Manager, Mr Fisher, attended the recent meeting in relation to Southern Lights, and understand that there has been some interesting information come to light, and some positive information in terms of a grant to help reduce the costs to council for the LED component of that lighting, which I think is very, very exciting, but a report will come back in due course in relation to that. Something interesting, councillors, that you should be aware of, that the New South Wales government offered the Riverina Joint Organisation some grant funding to consider investigating whether the JO may be interested in taking on water and sewerage aspects and having a study done. And of course, needless to say, the members of REROC certainly voiced their very strong opposition to that for obvious reasons. We know, Council, what your position is in relation to Golden Fields Water doing their role very well, and also the sewerage aspect, which is an important part of the business of Temora Shire Council. So I think, Mr General Manager, you'd agree that it was rejected in very strong terms.
I'd agree entirely with that. In fact, it received no support whatsoever. The impact on councils like Temora and even more so on councils like Gundagai that have water and sewerage functions would be enormous. Virtually render them unviable.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So that's for your information. So we've written this week in response after that board meeting last week to the government, outlining a very strong opposition to the nation and to their offer of that grant funding. And just lastly, what I had councillors and delegates reports, I wanted to warmly commend Councillor Judd and his local RSL sub-branch at Area Park and all those involved in their Remembrance Day ceremony recently. That was something very special to see World War II veteran Mr Harris and Mrs Harris unveil that very, very unique memorial. Congratulations, Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, Councillor Winkie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to place, just a little bit of a different topic, just like to place on, I think we should place on record that our thanks to Selena for dropping off the wonderful gift of toys, plus also gift cards that she left here on the quick tour that she had through the town. The toys were, I took them all down to QPL, and hats off to them because they've taken over the Christmas tree that Target used to run for toys for needy children. Look, the toys that Selena left here, they were good quality toys. They were brilliant toys, and they filled up the back of my dual cab ute on the back seat. It was absolutely chockers, and QPL were just amazed at the amount of toys. They'd already sent up a ute load to the salvos already, and they were just blown away with the amount of toys that came in that morning. So that's going to be handed out by the salvos to the needy in our community. And I also gave Caleb the gift cards as well for him to hand out to the needy people in the community as well. So it's all gone to a great cause, and she's doing a wonderful job, and I think we really should put it on notice that she is. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Councillor Winkie, and well said. That was a whirlwind visit, and but by someone so inspiring and very, very generous. And Councillor Winkie, I'd even be happy to accept a motion that we write a letter of thanks, sincere thanks, to Ms Win Pay for her generosity. Seconded, Councillor Smith. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will put that motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried unanimously, and thanks so much. Councillor Judd, I divert back to you as we're getting used to these microphones in relation to the Area Park Remembrance Day.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. No, it's a project that both Bill Spears and myself have been talking about for about 15 years, especially with the recent years, the centenary of Anzac. And it just so happens that when we got a grant to redo the roof of the op shop at Area Park, that Bill snatched the 100-year-old skylights that were in the building and come up with the idea of making it a memorial. And congratulations to Bill with that work. And he had great support with his work from Anthony Irvine of Irvine Signs, and also Hugh Goodfellow of Mecca Electrical, who contributed as well. So it's a great effort by that, and it's good to see Mr Bill Harris come and unveil it, along with, not related, but Mrs Dot Harris as well. And just on a side note, I had the occasion to be in Temora during the week at about 5:45 in the morning, and I drive down the main street and here's Mr Bill Harris striding it out. Now, he's up in Shipton Villas, so that's it. For a 94-year-old, he's a very fit man, so it's there, so.
And a gentleman with it,
Yes.
that's for sure. Thanks so much, Councillor Judd. No further delegates' reports? If not, let's move on to the business paper again, page 62. The Mayor's report for the month of November, and there is on page 64 a recommendation that the Mayor's report be noted. Thank you, Councillor Winkie. Councillor Oliver moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Over to page 65, councillors, the staff reports and motion receive staff reports. Thank you. Councillor Slay, the Deputy Mayor, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Over to page 66, the General Manager's report, 10.1, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very lean month this month for the report. There's only one report, which is 10.1, the calendar of events, for Council's information.
Thank you. Councillors, there's a recommendation there that those calendar events be noted. Councillor Winkie, Councillor Oliver, moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Nothing further of an urgent late nature, Mr General Manager?
No, Mr Mayor, I do have an item of late correspondence, but that'll come up later in the meeting.
Thank you very much. Councillors, we next go to page 67 of your business paper, Engineering Services, and would you believe nil has been happening in that space. The manager?
I'd like to think that we're organised and we get it all to Assets and Operations Committee.
That's exactly what we were thinking. No, thank you very much. We know it's a full-on, very full-on in that department, that's for sure. Councillors, we now, so nothing of an urgent late nature, thank you. Page 68, Environmental Services Department report, the Director of Environmental Services, the Director. 12.1.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The asbestos policy, the draft has been put on public exhibition. No submissions were received, suggesting that council adopts that as its asbestos policy.
Thank you, Mr Director. Councillors, there is that report and recommendation there for you to consider. Councillor McLaren.
I'll move that way.
Thank you. So you'll move the recommendation. Thank you. Seconder for the report, Councillor Slay. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Councillors, we now proceed over to page 143, 12.2, expression of interest, purchase of land at Springdale. The Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This is following a confidential report where council resolved to seek expressions of interest for parties interested in purchasing the land identified out at Springdale. No new interest was received, and we're suggesting that we condense the next stages, which is seeking a valuation and then commencing negotiations with the only interested party.
Thank you, Mr Director. Councillors, you see there a recommendation on page 144 for you to consider. Councillor Smith.
Move that way.
So you'll move that way, that we adopt the recommendation. Seconded, Councillor Reinhold. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, I will put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. And declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Anything further of an urgent late nature, Mr Director?
Nothing, Mr Mayor.
No, thank you very much. Councillors, over to page 145, the Administration and Finance Department, nil to report. Is there anything of an urgent late nature from the Director?
No, Mr Mayor.
Right. Thank you very much. Councillors, page 146, we go to correspondence, item 14.1, Rotary Club of Temora, the General Manager. Councillor Judd is leaving the chamber, declaring an interest in his capacity as President of the Temora Rotary Club. Thank you, Councillor Judd, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The first item, as you mentioned, is the Temora Rotary Club. We heard from them, from representatives of the group in public forum prior to the meeting, seeking assistance from council in any way that we can assist, but certainly assistance with the town hall and a loan of some of council's equipment, pull-up banners, promotional banners and the like. It's for council's consideration.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. And also, I suppose you could put a value on hosting the mayoral reception that they requested as well, which I understood we had approximately costed Mr Director around $1,000 for 30 of their guests plus council representatives. So we understood that the value of the Memorial Town Hall was around $1,050, Mr Director?
That's correct, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. So thus far we're up to, well, depends whether you include the mayoral reception as part of the financial support, but there's $1,050 for the Memorial Hall hiring and $1,000 with the mayoral reception. A great event, obviously, councillors, I think we all agree with that. Great for the Shire, more ways than one. So, it is up to you to determine how you wish to support the Rotary Club of Temora for this conference, which the theme Connecting Past to Future with 2020. Councillor Smith.
I just think the Rotary Club of Temora does a fantastic job. They do a lot of things, and the economic benefit to the town would be, they're the people coming to town, staying, spending money, open for ideas on how much we should give them.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that we donate back the cost of the town hall hire and the mayoral reception to the value of $1,000. Is that what you suggested the mayoral reception would be?
Thank you, Councillor McLaren. The advice from the Director was that with the 30 guests that Rotary is suggesting to us that they would have, plus council, that would be around the $1,000 mark.
I'd like to move that way.
So you'll move that that we support them in relation to the donation of the higher hall fees for the dates as per their request, and also that we host a mayoral reception for their dignitaries. Thank you. So Councillor Reinhold has seconded Councillor McLaren's motion. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Further discussion, Councillor Smith.
I was just wondering if we could afford to give them a little more in financial help, because they are going to bring in a lot of people to the town and bring a lot of money back to the town.
Yes, that certainly is a point well made, Councillor Smith, and I think that the mover and seconder were taking that into consideration, but again, this is what the discussion on the motion is all about. Further discussion on the motion, Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think in Mr Fritsch's presentation, I think he said, and I might be wrong, but I think it was last time we sponsored to the tune of about $2,500. So I think somewhere around that amount is reasonable, I think, Mr Mayor. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Well, so I suppose the only thing, if we're going on what Councillor Oliver and Councillor Smith's basically saying, is that we're sort of talking approximately $2,000 in kind support. So whether you wanted to consider to bring it up to the same level in terms of a cash donation of the 500. But again, I believe that they'd be grateful for any support that this council feels so disposed. The Deputy Mayor.
Now, I also note that council's offered to help put up their banner, Westpac Bank, because the apparently the Aviation Museum's already got the one across the street booked, so there'll be a cost of putting that banner up. Not huge, I wouldn't imagine, but still.
The scissor lifts, I understand, need to be involved. Is that correct? Mr. General Manager?
No, that's not correct, Mr. Mayor. But you do need to stop the traffic in the main street. So, if you're talking about the banner across the street,
No, we're talking about Westpac.
yes, and we would need the scissor lift there.
Okay, thank you. That's a very good point, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that obviously does come at a cost, and the scissor lift, so that probably would, that $500 probably would be, yeah. Okay, so we have a motion before us, and that is that we donate the fees in relation to the Memorial Town Hall back to the Rotary Club of Temora, and that we accede to their request in hosting a mayoral civic reception in honour of their dignitaries, and noting the other assistance that we will be giving them in terms of banner erection and so forth. So with no further discussion, I'll put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. If someone would like to bring Councillor Judd back into the chamber, please. Thanks, Councillor Oliver. Welcome back to the chamber, Councillor Judd. During your temporary absence, Council considered the request from the Temora Rotary Club in relation to the conference to be held in March of next year. And they have resolved that we would donate the fees of the Temora Memorial Town Hall back to the Rotary Club of Temora, which is a value of $1,050 plus the hosting of the civic reception in honour, which equates to an approximate value of $1,000, and of course the erection of the banner across at Westpac Bank, which obviously we're hoping will bring us up to the same level as last time, and that was carried unanimously. Thanks, Councillor Judd. Councillors, over to page 150, 14.2, Area Park Carols, the General Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one has a little bit of historic interest, really, because we gave approval for the carols at Area Park on the 15th, and unfortunately that clashed. So it's moved to the 22nd. They've requested to be moved to the 22nd, which of course is this weekend. As I said, it's just a formalising of the approval that was given at the previous meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Winkie. Move that we note that. Yep, thank you, Councillor Oliver. Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Over to page 152, 14.3, the Temora Trotting Club, the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a request from the Trotting Club for two pieces of equipment. Firstly, the mobile stage for their event on the 11th of January, and on the same night, use of our small stage, the portable stage.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
Move that way.
So you'll move that we grant approval
to both the items.
Thank you. And that, in relation to fees, etc., our current policy suggests that it's fee-free except for the payment of a deposit, cleaning deposit. Okay, thanks, Councillor Smith. You'll move that we accede to their request. Councillor Slay has seconded the motion. Is there further discussion? Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noticed that at the Carols, the old stage was used. Is the new one up to speed again, or?
A very good question, Councillor Oliver, and very, very timely. I will defer to the General Manager in relation to the issue of the new mobile stage. The General Manager.
January meeting. The new stage is currently out of action, has been damaged, and we have had some difficulty in sourcing the rods that are required to make the stage workable again. But that, as I understand, is now, we did receive the rods that were needed, but they didn't work. So they've taken it away. They're going to come up and fit them personally, and we should be operational very early in the new year, one would hope.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, speaking from an Australia Day point of view, fitting that old antiquated one that we've had in the past, I'm just sort of hoping like hell that it is finished because we've all, we're doing it all differently this year. We're having a morning one, as everyone is aware of, and otherwise we'd probably be fitting the thing in the dark early in the morning, perhaps, I don't know. But anyway, hopefully it's up and ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. The General Manager.
Mr Mayor, I'd be very disappointed if it wasn't completed by Australia Day. The indications I've been given is early January.
Thank you for those comforting words. If there's no further discussion, councillors, I will put the motion. All those of that opinion, please say aye. The contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Now, you have an urgent late item of correspondence. The General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I do have an urgent piece of late correspondence. It's come from the Lake Centenary Management Committee. As you're aware, Lake Centenary has been a bit of a hotbed this last week with all the tests that have been done and whatever out there. But the Lake Centenary Management Committee at their meeting last night resolved to advise Council that to stop recreational boating activities, including powerboat and jet ski use on Lake Centenary, due to the depth of the water in the main body of the lake. I should stress that it's nothing to do with the quality of the water, that's the depth of the water. That small self-launching boats such as small fishing tinnies and kayak-style hobies are exempt from exclusion and should be allowed to use the main body of the lake for recreational fishing activities while the water quality allows. And the third one, which is an interesting one that Council needs to consider, is they also decide unanimously to allow the water of Lake Centenary to be used for drought-affected farmers in dire need of stock water. So basically, the view is that the lake is too low for ski boats and power boats. They can still use them for the smaller type boats and, as I said, kayaks and things, but that in these times of dryness, where water is of a premium, that it's only going to evaporate, it might as well be used by the farming community.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. I'm going to defer to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sinclair, who is Council's delegate to the Lake Centenary Management Committee, for further advice to Council. Thank you, the Deputy Mayor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, the General Manager's report probably covered it all. Yeah, there's quite a discussion last night on particularly closing the lake. Yeah, unfortunately, the water level is to the point now that the pedals of boats are stirring up the mud, but also if somebody comes off the ski or something like that, they've got a fair chance of doing themselves some injury, so that's best to be closed. As said, there's no reason why small boats can't go down fishing and so forth, and kayaks and so forth. There's no issues there. So, as far as using the water, as I said, it's going to evaporate anyway. So, if farmers need for stock water, of course, it's going to be used for stock water. if council can set up some sort of a pump station there, something, or make some arrangement anyway, so that water can be pumped out to use of stock water would be, I think it'd be much appreciated by landholders. As you all know, that with the wind we've been having, the evaporation's been huge out of Clarendon Dams there. Water's going down by the day. So. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Just a question. How would that, in terms of a system, how would that go? If a farmer required water for stock, would they ring council and book that in? How would that work?
I guess they'd have to have someone controlling it. So, and I'd imagine it'd have to be a council pump, unless individual farmers bought their own pump, I suppose. But I'm not sure how that all works.
So just some of the logistics we'd have to work out. Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Councillor McLaren.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question for the Director of Environmental Services. The recent testing we've done on the water, has that indicated any issues with water quality for livestock to consume?
Thank you. The Director, Environmental Services.
No, it hasn't, Councillor McLaren. The tests were high in enterococci and fecal coliforms, but it's still adequate for livestock to consume.
Thank you. Councillor Voss, you're considering the Lakes and Tuna Management Committee's recommendations too. I want to say at this time in this chamber that I fully and warmly commend the General Manager, the Director and the staff in the manner in which they have handled this particular issue. I think that Council has been on the front foot. I'm pleased that the General Manager has advised that there will be regular testing as well of the lake waters. They will be monitored on an even more regular basis than we had done it before, which we're meeting, complying with all the various legislative requirements, but we're going to go over and above the call of duty in that space. So I just wanted it noted that Council commends our senior staff on the manner and the way that this has been handled. The Director, Environmental Services.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just to advise that as a part of the new improved strategy for managing water quality out there's a new sign that will be erected in the morning prior to the lake opening, which will be a quick guide to the conditions out there in relation to algae and general water quality. So there'll be like an indicator that's able to be changed based on the results of those tests, and that users of the lake can assess the conditions and make their own decisions with regarding to how they use the water.
Thank you, Mr Director. That's very, very pleasing. I think Council are seeing nods around that. I think they're very happy with that. Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a question to the Director. That will be a tamper-proof sign, I would imagine, so that nobody can go along and just move it to wherever they want to create mischief?
The Director.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Those, they're individual signs, so the arrow doesn't move, so the whole sign's replaced and slid in, so it's not actually like the traditional Rural Fire Service signs, but they're actual panels that slide in and out depending on the result. So, it shouldn't get mucked around with.
Thanks, Councillor Oliver. Thank you, Mr Director. Councillors, so we come back to Lakes and Tuna Management Committee's advice to Council, or their recommendation. You've heard from the Deputy Mayor who sits on that committee, the General Manager and the Director. So it is up to Council to determine what they would like to do. I would have thought if we do go down the stock water route or however else that the water is required, that there would have to be the logistics and etc. would have to be worked out. The Deputy Mayor.
Mr Mayor, this has happened in the past, a few years ago. 3, yes. The water from the lake was made available to farmers who need. I don't know there was a big uptake in it. There was a bit, I think, but not huge. So I imagine that was, I think, done with the council pump and so forth, and the same arrangements could be made again, I'd imagine. So I'd move that council back to the LA Committee's recommendations.
Okay, so the Deputy Mayor is moving that we adopt the recommendations from the Lakes and Tenere Management Committee. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Smith. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion. There's no further discussion. I'll put the motion to you. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr. General Manager.
Just to also let you know, Mr. Mayor, that this issue will be considered also tomorrow at the workshop. And we'll bring some more information, and particularly in relation to some new government programs that are being considered. But it will be discussed tomorrow.
Thank you very much. No further urgent late items of correspondence, Mr. General Manager? No. Thank you very much. Councillors, we now proceed to notices of motion, of which there are none. We have business without notice, and I shall go around the chamber. Councillor Reinhold.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Reinhold. We now proceed to Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just an observation, and this doesn't necessarily reflect on anybody's political point of view or persuasion. But I think for those who sit on this side of the table, when we get our new screens, the microphone should be up to the right, and for those who sit on that side, it should be to the left. Only because when we're talking to you, we're not talking, generally we're talking to the head table. So I think in the interest of better quality sound, that be taken into account. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
It is the end of the year. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Thank you, Councillor Oliver, for that contribution. Let's now go to Councillor Winkie. Business without notice.
No business, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Now, Councillor Winkie, I'm sure that you would be pleased as a member of the Temora Christian Leaders Leadership Group, that magnificent banner that was erected across the main street. And again, it's you're to be commended and those associated. Councillor Winkie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been incredible the amount of thanks that we've that I've received anyway. That's gone through. That the people are very, very happy with the banner and the way it looks. When it's up, which is great.
And I understand that you'd arranged that it continues to be up. I was surprised to see it taken down. You will be following that up.
I will be following that up,
Yep.
yeah, because when I was speaking earlier on, I was given the impression it should have been up sort of round about to Christmas, because nothing was booked in till the week after Christmas. So
Yep, that's right. So we need that.
it was thought that it could be stayed up a little bit longer than what it had.
Followed through. So we'll
We'll
leave
see how
that
it goes.
in
Yep.
your hands.
Will do. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Councillor Winkie. We now go to Councillor McLaren.
No business without notice, Mr. Mayor.
No, thank you, Councillor McLaren. The Deputy Mayor, business without notice.
Just a couple of comments, I think, Mr. Mayor, on backing Councillor Reinhold, earlier comments about Friday night. I found unbelievable the number of people in the town. I don't know, there must have been a lot of visitors to the town. There's a lot of people I've never seen before, and it was almost impossible to walk up the main street. There's so many people. So, and I mean, we couldn't have got a better night weather-wise, and yes, I'm sure the whole town benefited by that, and not only economically wise, it was just the whole social gathering and so forth. So it's it's a great credit to T-Beg for putting it on, and I think it's would have made a big difference to the whole town and the whole shire. So yes.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. You're quite right. You cannot underestimate. Obviously, we need the economy boost, but you cannot underestimate the positive social impact and well-being positivity that has come out of it. So again, we warmly commend those involved. No further business without notice, Mr Deputy Mayor? No, thank you. Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I thought the amount of people that was in the main street, it's most people have been in the main street for quite a while, and the economic benefit to the town would be greatly felt by most shops. But that was only one thing. Another thing was I was at another function this week, and a lady at that said she followed a road train from Wagga straight through the main street. She then rang the police and said, hey, what are they doing through the main street? And the police said, yes, they're allowed to go through the main street. They were parked outside McDonald's. This lady lives further down than that. And I just said I didn't think that was right, but I would ask.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. We'll defer to our engineering technical manager for a comment on that one. Councillor Fisher, you haven't got that yet.
That was a grain truck.
The grain truck, the manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, definitely no road trains are allowed between Hoskins Victoria Street intersection and Hoskins Street Kitchener Road intersection. So it's illegal.
So we need perhaps, communicate that with our local sergeant, Stacey, if we could please. Thank you, Mr Manager. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Is that all?
One more thing.
Sorry, just on that, the General Manager, did you wish to speak on that particular matter?
Yes, I was just going to say I will get those details off you because we often track on the CCTV cameras and contact the companies to ensure that they're fully aware that they're not allowed in the main street and they're not allowed through Temora, and that's happened on a number of instances and we've had a really good success with that. Usually the companies, if they're a large company, aren't aware that that's happening and they stop it straight away. So I'll find out the details of when it was and we can get the registration details.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. It's very important that we keep on top of that and it's great to see that it is working. Councillor Smith, further business without notice.
The other thing that was a bit of a worry on the night of the fair down the main street was the children on scooters, and there was three children down there, Fritz Brothers. They came out and we were going pretty slow through that roundabout there because of the kids on the scooters. They come in front of us, there's another car coming the other way, and they were near between Fritz's and Southwest Ford, and they come in front of us, went up the side of us, nearly run into the back of us because another car was coming the other way, and I thought, no helmets, they're in dark clothes, and it was, 9 o'clock or so, and I just thought it was quite dangerous at what they were doing, and I thought, accident waiting to happen. But they tell me that these same kids are a bit of a problem in the street.
I just wonder, Councillor Smith, where we're at, certainly as a result of Council's walk and talk tour, we recently resolved that we have the Ranger and the police again look into policing that properly. So we'll have to receive a report in relation to where that's at. Because obviously it is a concern. I know that we still have, several people complaining to me, and I'm sure to the rest of council at various times. So if we can follow that up where the Ranger is at, please. Thank you. Councillor Smith?
One more thing.
Yes.
After the carols in the park, the lights for the park weren't switched on, and some of the elderly people, I won't call them old, the elderly people just found it a little bit hard to go out of the park in the dark. But after the job was over, there was no lights in the park switched on so they could safely go out of the park.
You're right. I did notice that, Councillor Smith, and I rang the Director of Environmental Services on that one, and he has actually placed an order to the electrician to have that investigated because it was other than the little candles and the stage lights, it was pitch black. So I'm not sure what happened there. So, but an order has been issued for that to be looked into. Thank you, Councillor Smith. Anything further?
No, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Smith. Business without notice, we proceed to Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to ask, in view of our works manager being on leave, I'd just like the technical manager, he could give an update on Maxwell Road.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Judd. Defer to the technical engineering manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, so Maxwell's Roads project's gone really well, actually, and we've had favourable weather conditions, struggled to find enough water, but yeah, project's gone so well that it's pretty much complete, and I believe the road was open this afternoon, so we're right to complete and have a opening ceremony.
Thanks, Mr Manager. Councillor Judd, that's quite right what the manager said, and the technical officer has, Mr Dallenberg has sent an email for us to arrange a ceremony. I will be discussing that with you in due course, early in the new year, so we can invite the relevant minister, Minister Toole or whomever to officially open Maxwell Road.
Right. Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, just speaking to some of the residents out in that area, they're very overjoyed that it's a good Christmas present for them to have the road open, because it takes a while to go around the detour at the moment, and so it's good to have it open this coming period. So, and good work by the council.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Councillor Judd, and I'm sure the technical engineering manager will pass it on to the team involved with that.
Thanks.
Thanks very much, Councillor Judd. We now proceed to Councillor Slay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a minor point about the stage. This time last year, I can recall promising the new parish priest of Sacred Heart Parish that we would have a good stage at Christmas time from which to celebrate the Christmas Mass, the outdoor Mass. He asked me several times in the weeks leading up, do you think it will be here? Do you think it will be here? And I said, believe me, I've been told it will be here. This year, we were really looking forward to it. And again, I thought I might have been told that it was going to be here, but I have to just express a sense of lament that we are going to miss out once again on that stage. But let's not go for a hat trick. On a more serious note, if I might, we've spoken several times tonight about the work done by TBEG, in organising that fantastic evening that we had last week. On that occasion, several mentions were made, whenever the opportunity arose, of our being supported by our sister city in Randwick. And a lot of people spoke to me, they had no idea what was involved or who the people were or anything like that. It was quite an educational night for some people to find out that we had sister cities. But there seemed to be a very, very widespread sense of gratitude that these people in Sydney were supporting this particular activity in such a positive way. And I think that if that message went back to Randwick Council, it would be highly appropriate. Thank you, Mr Mayor, that's all.
Thanks so much, Councillor Slay. And that's, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because our dear sister city and our dear friends at Randwick City have been so generous to Temora Shire, well, since frankly our inception. They're always there when we need them, and I'm just so pleased that was hammered home that they were providing very generously the various gifts and so on that we had. So thank you so much, and I'm sure that when I'm talking to Mayor Danny Sedd and the General Manager's talking to the Randwick General Manager, that we'll certainly let them know that, because it's important to have that feedback. Thanks, Councillor Slay. We now you turn off your... Thank you. We now proceed... We're all learning. Councillor Winky.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I just wish to pass on our thanks to Mr Alex Dallenberg and the outdoor staff for the erection of the nativity scene. You know, shed men did a real good job of the cutouts that some of them were missing. We've still got probably a couple more that need to be done, but they'll have a go at those again next year, sorry. And also they painted the frame, but it had to be adjusted to make fit back in the Parface Park. But it's just great to see it up again after being absent for so long. So it's really, really wonderful. But the outdoor staff did a terrific job of putting it up. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Councillor Winky, and I'm sure the manager will pass on those warm, heartfelt thanks. Thank you. We now proceed to Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just like to endorse Councillor Slay's remarks about Randwick City Council. We held our Christmas tree function at Airy Park last night, and it got a very good rap there at the function last night, and everyone also there was surprised and pleased to see that got some support there for the function last night. So well done.
That's great. Thanks, Councillor Judd. It is lovely, and we don't ever take it for granted, their support, that's for sure. Thank you for that. Councillor McLaren.
Further on that same topic, I wondered if a formal letter of thanks would be appropriate, outlining what we spent the money on in both locations, the great attendance, the great therapy it was to our communities, just to give them a bit more meat on the bones of what we actually did with it.
Yes, well, certainly, thanks, Councillor McLaren. We certainly had sent them a letter of thanks when it come through, but yet we obviously hadn't been able to include the lovely feedback that we've had. So I think that it probably would be appropriate, and I think they'd love it, and all of council would be able to read that update. So Councillor McLaren, you'll move that we send a further letter to advise post-event of the success and the appreciation of our community and council. Councillor Slay, you'll second the motion. Moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Councillor Reinhold?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think you'll find TBEG were going to do a report and like an official...
And send it on to Randwick. Well, yes. That's excellent.
Yes.
But this might just complement the other, perhaps. So if the mover and second are still happy to stick with that motion, but thank you for the update, Councillor Reinhold. Further discussion on the motion? No. I will now put the motion. If there's no further discussion, all those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Further business without notice, Councillor Slay.
Just one that I think we really should, since we're talking about celebrations, those who had the opportunity of going around looking at the Christmas lights in the last few nights, it has been such an incredible experience to watch. I mean, how long has that program been going? Only a few years. And the first year, I think, I remember driving around and saying, good on them, that's great. This time, we only did half the town. We only had 2.5 hours to spare. It was unbelievable. So I think that the citizens of Temora deserve special congratulations on the way in which they've taken that on board. Thank you, Mr Mayor. And I'm going to turn my machine off now.
Thank you, Councillor Slay. Look, that is very appropriate remarks that you've made, and it is heartwarming. And you love seeing all the vehicles driving around and looking at it with families, individuals, whoever it may be. And you're quite right. Our community is to be warmly commended, and not only the Temora, but also the Springdale Village, Area Park Village has got right on board. It's tremendous, and we've just had the prize adjudicated, as I understand it, by our two independent judges, and we'll be presenting the winner with their prize on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. I'm actually doing an interview at TEM FM at 7:30, a Christmas interview with Mr. Mark Ribbons. So after that, we'll go and present that to that very deserving family. But thank you so much, Councillor Slay. Councillors, I just had two items. One that we're going through the pool upgrade plans with our federal and state member early in the new year, just to simply let them know exactly what we're aware of for obvious reasons prior to these grant submissions going in. So that's very important that they get the full picture of what this council have worked very hard towards, and as has that working party at the rec centre. Just finally, again, in wishing everyone a very Merry Christmas. I just want to particularly at this time thank our Executive Assistant, Mrs. Anne Rands. Now, Mrs. Rands has, I don't know whether councillors realise, but she has to put up with a great deal. And she puts up with a heck of a lot from the General Manager, a little bit from me and a little bit from the councillors. However, to you, Mrs. Rands, I simply want to say on behalf of myself and all of the council team, we want to warmly thank you so much for your commitment to us and your commitment to this community. It's real, it's very genuine, and we warmly thank you, and we wish you and your loved ones a Merry Christmas. Thank you. I now call on the General Manager.
Just one item I wanted to bring council up to speed on. At last, I think it was the last committee meetings, there were some issues regarding identification of properties and locations of properties, because under the privacy legislation we have to take the names and addresses, or particularly the names, off any public document. So just to let council know, we have implemented a system now where the original documents with the details still intact will be sent on the hub. They'll be put on the hub. You'll still have in your business paper or your agenda, there will be the redacted version, but the full document will be provided on the hub, so that you will be able to get a sense of location. It is difficult because if you're talking about removing a tree and you don't know where it is, that is difficult. So that, just to let you know, we have changed our processes slightly in relation to that.
Well, thank you, Mr. General Manager. I see some nods around the chamber. I think councillors very much appreciate that, and it will make our job a heck of a lot easier. So thank you very, very much for that. Councillors, if there's no further business without notice, I'd like now to have a motion to receive the information paper. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Winkie moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the information paper? Councillor Judd.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Page 231, 232, reply, or letter from the Minister, Linda Pavey. My question is to the General Manager. The Minister is encouraging be proactive in water usage. Last month, the month before, we wrote to Goldenfields locally asking if they could do something. Did we get a reply or not?
Thank you, Councillor Judd.
Thank you, Michael.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. The General Manager.
Thank you, Councillor Judd. You're quite right. We wrote to Goldenfields Water with two issues. The first one was the cost of water from standpipes, and thankfully that's been reduced. I think there's been a 25% reduction in the cost of standpipes during the drought. The other one, we haven't received a response back, but I understand the Deputy Mayor, who's our delegate, certainly in speaking to him, it was discussed, but no action taken in relation to it. So
other than an educational.
Other than an educational program, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillor Judd, is that satisfy?
Oh, just disappointing. That's my only comment, probably. I think it's, and there's a lot of publicity at the moment, as you know, about the drought, and I think we should be encouraging economic water use in there. That's my main point.
Yeah, Councillor Judd, thank you, and I don't think your views that you've expressed are just solely yours. I think there's others around that certainly feel that way as well. But I will defer at this time to the Deputy Mayor, who sits on the board of Goldenfields Water.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, there certainly was, the council letter was discussed at the October Goldenfields meeting. It was felt that at this stage that there was ample water in the system, that we were well under, Goldenfields were well under their maximum allowable amount for this year. At the recent meeting last week, it was raised again, and once again the General Manager also said the same thing, that we're still well under our maximum usage. He's got quite a few figures which I haven't got a copy of, but there's been water set aside in the dams for at least the next 12 months. So as far as stock and domestic water go, it will be available for next 12 months at least. Yes, the board decided on the advice of the General Manager to run a educational program to make people aware of responsible use of water, rather than put in place any restrictions. So, having said that, I believe that once the water in the dams do drop below a certain percentage, the government does come in and put in mandatory restrictions. And we can't be too far away from that, I would have thought.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. I just hope that the Goldenfields Water Board do, really not wait necessarily for government intervention, because, we have, a lot of us have stood up and fought for Goldenfields for their autonomy, and we just hope that they're not going to jeopardise it, that's all. So thank you. Councillor Winkie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. It's been quite interesting the last couple of weeks, because we've had a few visitors come through, and the first question they seem to ask is, where's your water restriction signs on the outside of town? We were looking for them and couldn't find out what level you're on. And they really can't believe that we're not on restrictions. And it's rather embarrassing when you look around and see your neighbouring councils and people to the north and the west of us, and even to the east of us. Well on restrictions, and we haven't got anything, and I think it's not a good look, and we need to really do something as far as the town's concerned to rectify that.
Thanks, Councillor Winkie. Well said. I know the poor Deputy Mayor, I know he's the guinea pig, but I happen to know that the Deputy Mayor did obviously stand up for what this council wanted, but like the rest of us, we're one vote. And the board make a decision, and that's that. However, I think all of us, I know all of us in this chamber, and I'm sure a large majority of the community are doing their own thing in terms of conserving water wherever possible. I understand there was an incident today, yesterday, I beg your pardon, that there was a farmer's wife saw someone hose down a local building in Temora, and she was most upset seeing this water on the building, and where she's actually got to bathe from a bucket. So when that was mentioned to me today, it sort of it does touch you, I have to say, that I didn't realise that that some people are doing that. So anyway, this council, I'm sure we'll keep a very watching brief, and Mr Deputy Mayor, perhaps at our January meeting of Temora Shire Council there may be yet another resolution and representations made to Goldenfields in that space. Thank you. Councillor Judd, further discussion on the information paper.
If you just like to give a plug for Goldenfields too for pressing on with stages 2 and 3 of the Mena Bay water extension. I know a lot of farmers in the Mena area have just been hooked up recently, so that they're enjoying having water for the first time. For, in the past, many times I've had to cart water on Christmas Day, so that's good to see that happening.
That's great, Councillor Judd, and there I'm sure the Deputy Mayor can pass on that bouquet.
Certainly can, and just to that too. As the system goes past farmers, that they're being hooked up straight away, whereas the first stage 1 it had to be fully set up and charged and everything before anyone could go on. This line now, as it passes the front gate, basically, they're hooked up and they've got water straight away. So it's yeah, as Councillor Judd has said, it's proving very popular at the moment.
Very good. Thank you. So nothing further for Golden Fields. If not, we have a mover and a seconder for the information papers receival. If there's further discussion, Councillor Judd.
Just a comment on page 234, 235 and 236, response about the letter from the General Manager to the, through Steph Cook to the government about the My Community Projects voting. I was disappointed to see the response there. Typical bureaucratic response. While I acknowledge your concerns, still going to do it. But
I think there's a review though, isn't there?
yes, yeah. But anyway, the point there they're making about smaller communities can compete. Well, Erie Park with our Temora Community Radio project, we got I think one of the highest, probably the highest vote of a small village in the electorate. But still had Buckley's chance of getting anywhere. So I think, yeah, system's flawed, and I just hope they'd have a rethink. So.
Well said, Councillor Judd, and my understanding is that talking with the member that she's not the only member, the member for Cootamundra that is, that has received, shall we say, or felt the wrath of people's dissatisfaction about that process, except for GNE, of course. Our good friends at GNE are very, very happy, and we're happy for them. However, it is a flawed system. I've never seen anything like it. And let's hope in this review period that it is genuine and that they can go to a different model in the future. Thank you very much. If there's no further discussion on the information paper, I will put the motion that has been moved by Councillor Oliver and seconded Councillor Winkie. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried. Thank you very much indeed. Councillors, refer to your pink papers in accordance with section 10A of the Local Government Act 1993. Advise that there are several matters that are deemed confidential, and accordingly I require a motion to have those matters considered, please. Councillor Slay, Councillor Smith moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare that motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Winkie. Lightning. Resuming to closed session. Again, thank you to Mr. Wilson. We look forward to seeing you again. Mr. Mangelsdorf, all the best. And thank you, Mrs. Grant. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Thank you. Thank you. We resume into open council. The resolutions that have been brought forward from closed session, we have a motion to adopt the following resolutions. Resolution 521/2019 is that we adopt the report and the recommendations contained therein in relation to the Staff Consultative Committee meeting. In relation to the minutes of the Assets and Operations Committee meeting, there is a resolution 523-2019 that the reports and recommendations as presented be adopted. The General Manager's informal performance review meeting, there is resolution 524-2019, and it was resolved that Council note the informal meeting of the General Manager's Performance Review Committee, which was carried unanimously. There was an amendment Temora Local Environmental Plan 2010, airport land rezoning. The resolution 525-2019, council have resolved to 1, resolve to accept the planning proposal as exhibited. 2, request that council officers forward the planning proposal and environmental contamination assessment report, relevant council reports and submissions to New South Wales Planning, Industry and Environment for review. 3, following satisfactory review of the relevant documents by New South Wales DPIE, forward the draft planning proposals to the Parliamentary Council's office with a request that the draft instrument be prepared. And finally, number 4, receive a future report to formally adopt and make the LEP once a legal opinion from Parliamentary Council's office is received, and that was carried unanimously. Building Better Regions grant application, resolution 526-2019. Council resolved that 1, confirm their support for the Building Better Regions Fund applications for $990,000, and number 2, confirm their support for the council funding contribution to the project of up to $1.2 million if the grant application is successful, and that was carried unanimously. Supported independent living house, resolution 527-2019. Council have resolved unanimously that we apply for a $1 million loan for the supported independent living house to be repaid over 8 years at 1.9%. Country Change Expo 2020, resolution 528-2019. Council resolved unanimously that we host a Country Change Expo in 2020 that focuses on attracting businesses and residents to the Airpark estate. Thank you. So, councillors, I require a motion, please, to adopt those resolutions. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Smith, moved and seconded. All those of that opinion, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillors, is there any further business before council? If not, I do thank you so much for your attendance. Thank you for everything in 2019, and let's look forward to a ripper 2020. And I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.